worship you in the good times, and I worship you in the bad times. Worship you when I'm happy. Yes, I worship you even when I'm sad. I worship you when I'm going through my trial and my tribulation. I only want to worship you every day, every way. So I say I worship you. Worship you. I worship you in the good times, and I worship you in the bad times. Worship you when I'm happy. Yes, I worship you even when I'm sad. I worship you when I'm going through my trial and my tribulation. I only want to worship you every day, every way. So I say I worship you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Worship Wednesday. It is a blessing to be in the land of the living and be here to give God worship in deep discussion and conversation. Listen, I don't know about you, but I'm grateful to God for the opportunity to be able to worship him. And the word tells us that they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So we've gathered today. Listen, get your tea, get your snacks, get comfortable. And we're going to be here for a minute. So if you have to leave and come back, we understand. But we're going to have a deep discussion today about worship. Let us know where you're coming from. If you're, across the country or wherever you're viewing us, let us know and give us some shouts. And please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. as we share content that will be edifying, that will be encouraging and uplifting rather to the people of God. There are so many people in this season that can't get out, and even after the pandemic is over, there will yet be people that can't get out. So we always want to bring content that is impactful, that is empowering, that is encouraging and uplifting to our brothers and sisters in Christ. And so before I bring the guest that I have today, I want to share a little something with you. And one of the things that I want to share with you, a lot of people have asked, have I written books and am I an author? And I am. You can order my books on Amazon. And you can order them several other places, but I do have a book that I wrote regarding worship, and the title of the book is called Chosen, Not a Choice. And when you go to look it up, you will see this beautiful picture. This beautiful picture. Look at me. Beautiful picture of me on the cover. So you can't mistake it for someone else's book. Oops, I dropped the book. But nevertheless, I'm grateful to have you here. And today we're going to have a discussion on worship and the bringing it to where we are now in our forms of worship, because we can't get into our churches and our synagogues and wherever it is that we do worship. We want to make sure we strengthen the brethren to let them know that what you are doing in your living room, what you are doing at your churches when it's just you without a congregation, it is still in order for this season that we're in, to help the people of God to be strengthened in worship. So we will be right back with our guest, but we want you to enjoy this, and we will be right back after our break. Come on and lift your hands. Oh, we lift our hearts in the sanctuary. All over this house, we bow in your presence. Oh yeah, yeah. Come on, let's bow before him. Bow in your presence. Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. Come on and lift your hands in the sanctuary. Come on and lift your heart in the sanctuary. Oh, we bow in your presence. Yes, Lord. Oh, Lord, we bow in your presence. Yeah. You are holy, righteous, you're awesome, you're mighty, you're faithful, a healer forever. You're holy, you're righteous, 'cause everybody know he's awesome. What a mighty God we serve. He's faithful. Well, welcome back to All I Know TV. Here we are on Worship Wednesday, and I have my special guest, which is none other than the big giant of the gospel himself. Listen, I call him Preacher Man. Yes, we call him Preacher Man. But this is my eldest son, the one and only Minister Dr. Dominique Campbell. And we are here to talk about worship. Now, I shared with you a little earlier before we took our break that we were going to talk about worship in the way based on the season that we're in. And so in the book that I've written, again, the name of the book is Chosen, Not a Choice. You can pick the book up on Amazon. They'll deliver it right to your door. Just pay the shipping costs. Amen. The book is sells for $10, and then you pay shipping, $10 plus shipping. So seed to the ministry. Amen. All right, listen. So, so in the book, there was a section that was dealing with the tabernacle of David. And the tabernacle of David refers to the tent that King David set up on Mount Zion when he returned the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. That's in First Chronicles 15:1. That's First Chronicles 15:1. I heard a preacher say that, so don't worry about it. And David made him houses in the city of David and prepared a place for the ark of God and pitched it for a tent. Within the tent, a new order of worship was instituted, which was unlike anything that was ever done before. From the tribe of Levi, David appointed thousands of singers and musicians who ministered day and night to the Lord. So listen, they ministered 24 hours a day. They ministered 7 days a week. They ministered 365 days in the year for 33 years. Could it be that in this season that God is trying to stretch us from the ways that we've been doing worship in the four walls of the church to get us to take worship outside of the four walls of the church, where people would not necessarily come to our assemblies within the four walls? We are now able to take worship to them on the outside, garnering more members than we would have taken in on a Sunday morning. So this is not something that that is just Sunday morning based. This is something that can happen on Tuesday afternoon. This is something that can happen on Monday early evening before the sun go down. This is something that can happen on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in preparation for our Sunday, which now our Sunday is literally, for some of us, every day. Right. And so I want to have a discussion on thinking about what David did to institute something that was new in the form of in worship, and how we can continue with what he did in a more effective way in this season. So, son, just share a little bit of how what your take is on that, and then we'll take it a little further.
Well, I think number one, the power of this particular narrative and passage, those scriptures and verses that you read, is basically highlighting the power of implementation, right? Or delegation. I think a lot of people don't understand the power of delegation during our time as a vast majority when it comes to church, because what happens is, there are many times where you have all the capabilities within the house in which you serve, but you're not being used for whatever reason. And the scariest part about it is most of the time when ministry is being done, it's typically being done according to the schedule that is convenient for everybody. But that is not, convenience is killing off our level of confirmation or our level of connectivity that we have, because the older saints understood the power of spending time with God. They would do shut-ins. They would do all-night revivals. They would do 2-week revivals. Sometimes a revival would start on a Monday and it would end the following month on that Monday. Like it was something about being connected to God during that era and that time, where they saw the need and the necessity, to where some of the ministry that was being done in the most effective way was spur of the moment, right? But also when you're talking about them doing it 24 hours a day, 33 years, it also speaks to sustainability. And when you understand how to delegate, things are sustainable on a much higher level, because you're not burnt out. I think a lot of people are burnt out from doing ministry, and they don't pray. So because they don't pray, they don't receive the instruction necessary. They're often peering out of the window instead of praying to get instruction from God as to how to build, as to what to do to make sustainable models for ministry. I think right now what God is trying to show us, even in the power of technology, is there are sustainable ways that you can do effective ministry to where you're not burnt out. You're excited to do these talks. You're excited to do ministry Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, however it's going on, because you understand the power of what you're doing and being a communicator doing this kind of digital advancement of the kingdom of God. And so for me, it's understanding that the narrative of David is really a model for us to understand how to do and build effective ministry. A lot of people, when they're trying to structure ministry, are often looking to one another. I think this is the time to now ask God, how do I implement what I'm supposed to implement? How do I do what I'm supposed to do when it comes to ministry? How do I package it? How do I say it? What look do I need to have? What, do I need to lose weight? Right? Like, do I need to run late? What can I do to now make the message of the gospel more appealing, more attractive, even if it means I have to deal with me and get out of my own preferences to get into his presence, right? A lot of people put their preferences over what God's presence is and what it needs to be maintained as in the household of faith. So I feel like that's a good starting point as far as when we're talking about David, and they did it for 33 years. At times they were worshiping God 24 hours a day, but it wasn't the same person.
Right.
It wasn't just one person doing it for that extent. That's like humanly impossible.
Right.
And I think sometimes some people need so much notoriety that they're willing to kill themselves off just for trying to maintain a name, where it's like, dude, if you come up with the strategy, people will know, because nobody will see this model anywhere else, and everybody else will be trying to bite off of it and emulate it. Right. But everybody will know, like, you're on to something. You're thinking about these processes. You're putting in vested time, and you're vesting energy into how to be most effective in presenting the gospel in a fresh and a new way, so that it will be not just it won't just win souls to Christ, but it'll help them to explain to unbelievers why they're so interested, why it's so necessary for them to be a part, why they tune in to what it is you do, period. Right. And while everything is personality driven, 9 times out of 10 when it comes to ministry stuff, it can be personality driven if we include enough personalities. Yeah. Right. So if I already know that everybody's going to come to my channel to look at me and what I'm doing, what am I going to do? I'm going to start bringing in other people. Right. Because of the power of delegation and because of the power of sustainability. Right. And so when you put those two together, what you're really getting is a form of like divine collaboration, where God utilizes and partners with us to now bring almost these heavenly ideas into Earth's atmosphere, to give us opportunity to display what he had already had preordained for us before the foundations of the world. Right. That stuff only comes based on your personality. That stuff only comes based on your level of creativity. And most people are not going to spend the time to find out, God, what do you want me to do, before they start doing it? They do it, then ask God, and then they have to switch it in the middle. And it's like, no, just ask him, what am I supposed to do beforehand? Y'all, right. If you follow me on Sunday school at all, beforehand has been like my word since the pandemic. Right. But I mean, the reality is we have to now focus our attention on God. What do you want to see ministry? How do you want ministry to look? David had all these instructions, right? As to how they even went into detail. In Chronicles, they go into specifics. Yes. They go into down to how many coat hangers they had on the rack when you came into the front door. Like, it's crazy, right? Yes. So, but how do you maintain all of this instruction? You have to write it down. You have to be able to receive the downloads that you're asking for, which means when you pray, you have to learn how to shut up. Now, that's just as candid as I can put it. Well, but a part of prayer is silence. Right. It's not just giving God what you feel. It's also receiving what he has to say after you give him what you feel. Right. And if we learn how to be quiet, and we learn how to sit still in his presence, if we learn how to take the time and steal away, then we would have what we need to sustain ministry. And I know there's some people that might be like, listen, I pray all the time, and it just seemed like ministry is so tough and ministry is so hard. The issue is not the fact that you're not getting the downloads. The issue is he could be speaking to somebody else that you need on your team. Right. And so when you learn to hear God even through your enemies, then you'll definitely hear him through people who actually trying to help you get the goal that you're trying to get accomplished. But I listen to everybody. Like, right. I'm not just stuck on who I'm stuck on and what I'm stuck on and how they agree with me. And I mean, people disagree with me all the time. I still hear God when they're talking to me. I'll be like, oh, yep, that's confirmation. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Now I'm about to take this. Right. We're gonna build.
Right.
Right? I'm not flustered. I'm not deterred. I'm not and what you have to understand about David is David can rightfully build the tabernacle because he did what it takes to get the presence of God back into Israel's camp.
Right.
When you do what it takes to get God's presence into the camp, you can build around God's presence because his presence is there.
Right.
Right? Whatever level of instruction he's giving you, but when you fought to have to get his presence, and when you fought to have to make sure that where God was enough for everybody else, and you could receive the blessings and the inheritance of God because you had to fight for it to be the case, you come into worship, you come on these talks, you come on a Zoom call, you on Bible study, you on prayer calls, you on whatever the case may be, because it was a fight to get into his presence. Yeah. And when you had to really fight, when you had to bear down, when you had to grab the horns of the altar in order for you to feel, to receive, to experience his glory and his goodness, because you know what it's like to lose it. You know what it's like to not have his presence. And when you get in it, you like, Lord, like, listen, it's been a minute. Like, God, like, thank you for, and not to say that you didn't have access the whole time, right? But there are things that we do, right, to put ourselves in a position to where we go outside of his presence. It's not, it ain't got nothing to do with him. He there the whole time. He already said he'll never leave us nor forsake us, even until the end of the earth. So if he ain't never left, then how come we feel like he gone? It's us. Right. So we have to get ourselves in check. We have to get in alignment. We have to do what's necessary for the kingdom of God to be made manifest so his glory can be known. So I'm gonna be quiet now because now.
Well, no, this is good. And because
you're dealing with my one.
Of course. This is what we do. This right here is what we do. Like, and so I want to go back to what I said when I read from the tribe of Levi. Yeah. David appointed thousands of singers and musicians who ministered day and night to the Lord. Okay. That line or that sentence is what we're going to deal with right now. Because David had to be a person of major detail, because not only did he appoint the people, he had to set a schedule for when these people were going to minister day and night unto the Lord. So he had to have a clock. He had to have this thing written out, because there was no computer system, there was no internet, and he appointed the people, and this was their only job. This was their responsibility in the kingdom during this time. He went to the singing tribe, he went to the musical tribe of Levi, and got the skillful musicians and the singers. So this is the thing. They didn't have no Hammond B3 organ. They only had certain instruments back in that time. And they signed up for it. He appointed them, but they said, yes, Lord, or yes, I want to give my gifts. I want to give my talents. I want to give my musical abilities and capabilities back to God through this form of worship. So I know that there are many singers right now, and there are many musicians right now that don't have a schedule. David created what he created for ministry to happen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you have paid attention in any way, we are now in that David moment where God literally has cultivated, if you will, and has brought forth the creativity of singers and musicians that you didn't always see on the internet and on social media platforms and things of that nature. Now they are figuring it out. Because at the end of the day, if the church can't give you your check because they're not having worship or things of that nature, then what do? You offer your gifts, you offer your abilities, you offer your talents back to God. Even if your check ain't coming from the church, hear me clearly, people of God, and I need y'all to hear me, because this is where my heart is. Yes, they are doing things in the government, but God has a financial system in the kingdom of God that outweighs and outdoes any governmental financial system in creation. Yep. And so why, if I'm waiting on a stimulus check or if I'm waiting on an unemployment check, that stuff is going to run out. But God has a way of allowing our creativity to yet be able to give people what they need through worship. God has the ability to sustain those that are true to him. God is the only one that can pay everybody at the same time and not get nobody's money confused. He knows his check is good. He don't have to worry about no check bouncing. You paying no check fees, no over fees, no fees from other checks, all of this kind of stuff. God is our source, and he is a great manager of our sources. And so I want to just kind of deal with creativity in worship, if you will, because now it's creativity to try to help people that have never had to be this creative in order to do worship, because everything was already kind of set when we were in the four walls of the church. So now people have to develop these things on their own. And it's difficult when it's not something you've been accustomed to doing. So let's kind of have a conversation, if you will, about, or you can talk and I'm going to shake my head and say, because that's what I do when you talk, because it's like, come on, just hit all the points, because we don't have to. We are trying to give people tools and things that they can use in order to be successful. That is the whole purpose of what we do. We want to bring you content and bring things to you to help you along the journey. Some people get it, some people don't. Right. Some people don't know what to do. Right. So this is our platform, since we know what to do, and we're not asking you, to pay $250. We're not asking you to register for a conference. We're bringing you information every week, so that it will help you to be a better Christian. It will help you to be a better citizen of the kingdom of heaven through media ministry and getting the word and getting things out to the people that will never know your name, the people that would never come to your church, the people across the waters in Africa and Brazil and South America and in London and in all of these places that view content all over the world. You have no idea, when God said in the scripture that he would make your name great, you had no idea that this pandemic would make some of our names great, because there are people that are becoming aware of who you are and you haven't even left your house. So let's talk about being creative in this season, especially as it relates to worship. So go ahead, sir.
Listen, for me, what one of the things with me is I'm fascinated with prison culture. And the reason I'm fascinated with it is because I get this very high sense of captivity causing creativity to be magnified.
Okay.
It's almost like figuring out what to do to get the results you desire without enough ingredients.
Wow.
So it's literally like God strips everything away, because the children of Israel had this cycle, right? Mm-hmm. The cycle is we're going to do what you say do, God. Then we're going to get around people. We're going to get to wherever we're supposed to get to. We're going to, however we're supposed to get around to you, we're going to do what it is that you're asking for us to do, only for a period of time. And then after that period of time goes, then we're going to end up going right back into doing what it is that we want to do. And then after we finish doing what we want to do, then it's gonna end up being a situation where our enemy takes us over because God is like, I'm tired of y'all now because y'all keep playing and I keep explaining to you how to stay right. You won't stay right. So here, now I'm gonna leave you to yourself. As soon as he decides to leave us to ourselves, we end up getting taken over by enemy. We make a mistake. We don't have the grace to do what's necessary to maintain what we need to maintain. Okay, well, fine. So every single time that transpires, all of the miracles being performed is God's way of showing us how creative he is to keep us out of the hand of the enemy. But he only can show us a lot of times in captivity.
Wow. Okay.
So we won't do right. So then, and it bothers me like to no end because I'm looking at us shouting about the walls of Jericho falling down. But in my mind, when I'm reading back a couple of scriptures, I'm noticing and recognizing that Joshua and Caleb had already said we could take over this land. Right. There were no walls of Jericho existing. Right. But as soon as we don't do what we're supposed to do and we're not sure, we and then all of a sudden now we shouting because now we got to receive instruction about stuff that he had already given it to us.
Wow.
All we have to do is walk in there and take it.
Wow.
But because we get afraid, we go with the majority. We won't hear God through the minority. We won't hear God when he's talking to us through seemingly people that don't have the clout, that don't have the influence, that don't have the level of awareness that we think they need to have, right, in order for them to hear God and to accurately speak about what he has to say. And so Joshua and Caleb is left knowing that God had already promised them the future, knowing that there were no walls built at the time. And then now we turn around and shout about the walls of Jericho falling down. And I'm like, the only reason God was willing to make the walls of Jericho fall down was because there were no walls to begin with.
Right.
So all he's doing is putting it back to the original state in which it was.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that it wasn't a miracle, but what I mean is if God allowed you access to your promise and you waited for the enemy to build a wall, you have no choice but to pray.
Right.
But it's because you were unwilling to go where he said to go and to do what he said to do when you had opportunity because you were afraid.
Okay, stop right there. So wait, hold on, because let's just unpeel that whole piece that you just said.
Oh my God!
When you said they received the order to possess the land. But they got fearful and scared because this was something that they had never had to do before.
Yep.
So whenever God gave a command, that's why it took them so long to get through something that wasn't supposed to take them that long.
Correct.
So this is the thing. So people, I need y'all to hear me clearly. So we are sitting here.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. And I got a neighbor that lives across the street from me. Okay, my neighbor lives directly across the street, right? And so God tells me to go across the street and sit on her porch. But because that's not something that God has ever instructed me to do, and I'm trying to make it as simple as possible so you can see how basic this was, because like he said, we get excited about the miracle of and the walls being having to be broken down and all of this, when in fact all we really had to do initially was walk across the street.
Yep. Like literally.
So then, because we didn't walk across the street, we were sitting across the street watching a wall being built that never had to be built in the first place had they heeded the instruction and taken note of what God said. And it is just that simple. People read that and they preach it, and their goal is to get to the wall coming down. But just like he said, had they had already sent the spies out. So people had already been sent out. This was the thing. And you had, they sent 12 spies to go spy out the land to see if they could conquer and do all of this. 12. And so they sent the 12, and then out of the 12, was it 2 that came back and said, we can take this? Was it 2?
Yep.
Okay, I got to make sure I'm correct because I don't want to give people wrong information.
Okay, hold on. Wait. Okay, see now, hold on, because he just shared this with me. Okay, listen. If the 12 would have included one more, they would have had the total number of times they walked around the wall.
Correct.
They walked. Everybody's talking about 7 times.
Correct.
It wasn't 7 times.
Correct.
It was 6 times. It was 13 was the number.
Right.
Let's just be clear.
Right.
Okay. So because 13 was the number,
right.
How many spies did you have?
12.
So who did you exclude? Who did you? If you hit 13 minus 12 is what?
1.
God bless you. So that means that the only reason you didn't get access to what you would have had access to beforehand is because you was missing 1.
Right.
And if we're gonna preach, if we're gonna preach the text in context, then what you literally are saying is after all that God did of splitting the Red Sea open, of causing their clothes not to be worn, keeping them in their health and strength, walking through the wilderness for all that time, then you turn around and you send spies into. Why would you send spies into your own house just because somebody else is living there? Go in the house.
Listen.
If God already told you it was yours, why are you sending spies?
And you got the key.
And you have the key already. He already said this is yours. He's already told. Listen, if God tell me that the Range Rover in the parking lot is mine, I'm going up to it and asking him for the keys.
Listen.
I'm not going to figure nothing out. It's nothing for me to figure out because the person who created my thoughts, right? The person who made the mind to engineer a Range Rover is the one telling me that the car is mine.
Yes.
So why in the world am I about to sit up here and act like I don't know already what God is capable of just because he given me something new? That's ridiculous.
And he gave them the instruction.
Exactly.
He told them to go possess the land, is what he said. He told them to go possess the land.
Yep.
And because of their disobedience, they sat and watched the wall be built right in front of their face.
Yep.
Hear me clearly, people. And this is why I want to do things like this, because we get to expound in a way that preachers sometimes don't really get to expound because they have to do things within a specific time frame. And so I want to deal with that just a little more because it is extremely powerful to know that he told them what to do. Okay. In this season that we're in right now, there are many people that are sitting at home and they're bored. But God has given many of you instructions on what to do. This is the crazy part. He gave you instructions before the pandemic even hit.
Yep.
And you chose because, oh no, I can't do that. Oh no, I'm not good enough. Oh no, I can't do that. So you chose not to. Now you're scrambling because before you had access to other people that could be in your presence, that could help you, that could put their hands on it, that can help to orchestrate it and get you the information and the data that you needed in order to be successful. Now you're having to do all this stuff over the phone and you have to do it.
Yep.
And so he's given them the instruction and they got scared. They became afraid. Why would I get scared if God is telling me to do something and then I turn around and not do it because I don't feel adequate? Are you crazy? The devil is a big fat liar. If God tells me to go across the street, knock on that lady's door and say, you gonna live and not die, guess what I'm doing? I'm putting on my shoes. I'm gonna make sure I got some good hair on and walk across that street and put a little lip gloss on and go across that street and tell that lady what God said, and then walk my happy hips back up my steps and come back in my house.
Okay, but this is the problem, though. This is the problem. The problem is the 12 didn't send themselves.
Correct.
And so what we have to address, if we're still gonna stick with this narrative, is instruction. If it doesn't come from God and it comes from the person who you ascribe to as a leader, if that leader is not in tune with God, they will send you on assignments that God was never intending for you to know.
Okay, you know what?
So now,
I'm not gonna play with you.
Because we was talking about the power of delegation at first, right? Well, there is something else though, that there's the power of deception.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're looking at now is there was never a command given to go and spy out anything.
Correct.
He said, go into the land.
Right.
So we didn't have whole board meetings. We didn't raise capital. had financial campaigns and all this other stuff because people will not come off of their high horse and ask for help because they don't understand the power of delegation. Listen, it does not matter how many assignments we do to fulfill church work. If God never told us to fulfill this stuff and we're following these instructions from people who do not pray, then we're running in circles. Yes. And the scariest part about this is God will still grant you favor while you run in circles for stuff that God never told the people who put you up to this mess to make you do what you was doing in the first place. Right. You didn't have to do all of that stuff regarding ministry. You didn't have to do all that stuff regarding money. You didn't have to do all of that stuff regarding how to take care of your family and how to run your household. And then you got to work in the church, have 2 side jobs, get a perm on Saturday, get a quick weave on Sunday, get your nails done on Friday. Like, it's like, yo, like what? Like you pulling, your hair is falling out. You stressed. You overwhelmed, you being underpaid, right? You being taken advantage of financially, and everybody wants your gift, but a lot of these assignments that people are calling you for regarding your gift, they're really trying to leverage your name to build their personal finance or their congregational finances. That day is out. Like, the reality is you have to pray about, am I supposed to fulfill these tasks? Even because people will leverage your loyalty. Correct. And leveraging somebody's loyalty is deception at its finest. Yes. And so what we have to pay attention to is as much as we want to blame everybody else, you have to remember that the leadership that they was up under was insecure with Jesus in private. Right. Now, while he performed all of these different tasks, now while he lifted his hand and while he did part the Red Sea, and while he was able to keep them in the alignment with what God was telling them to do, that oil flows still from the head down. Right. So when you see that now is not going to have the same confession as what next is going to have, then now needs to get out of the way. Right. Or now needs to come to grips with the fact that because I didn't get instruction and I called y'all to do something and y'all came back with a word of faith, even though I think we're going to fail at the task, I got to choose faith. Mm-hmm. Because faith is what it is that pleases God. Right. So if faith pleases God, and the confession of faith is not coming from the people that I might want to have the confession of faith, or the people that I fool with, but they still have a confession of faith, then what I need to do is I need to make sure that I'm following in alignment with what God wants me to do. And if God's plan for my life is for me to go in and take over and accomplish that particular territory, then that's what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So I can't even, and it's the other part. So a lot of times we have to learn how to effectively, and see, I'm people kind of quantify me as a rebel sometimes, but we have to learn how to effectively disagree with leadership when they're out of the will of God. Well, one of the most effective ways you can do when it comes to leadership, and when you know they're out of alignment, let's just be honest. There are many times when people who are leading us in these churches and doing these different things, they are not praying. Mm-hmm. They are not receiving instruction. They're going based off of their paycheck. Mm-hmm. And whatever it is that's going to appease their paycheck is what is going to be determined as your assignment. Mm-hmm. So as long as they can make the people who are happy in the boardroom so that they can continue to collect their check, you will have an assignment. As long as that's cool. As soon as that's all bad, they got something to say. Mm-hmm. Why? Because now their check is on the line. Mm-hmm. I will never be pigeonholed as nobody's pastor behind no paycheck. You got me messed up. Because the reality is who God called me to be. He called me to be before I ever received a check from the church. Right. So I'm not going to sit up here and I'm not going to change my mind just because the majority decides that this is the way we're going to go. If I know in the pit of my stomach and in my heart of hearts, and I know within my soul that this is the wrong choice, this is the wrong choice. These two are the ones who are on the right path. This is what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. Period. Because leadership has to come off of their high horse. Mm-hmm. When you're asking for your laity to do assignments, when you're asking for your leadership to do assignments that God never told you to do, right? Then it don't really matter what report you're coming back with, right? Because at the end of the day, there was never supposed to be a report given in the first place. Absolutely. Because all we were supposed to be reporting was God, we did what you said. Absolutely. All right. Okay. Listen. We're gonna take a short break, and then we will be right back after this commercial break. All right.
I love to praise your Jesus, 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 sweet Jesus, 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 power in the name of Jesus, 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 healing in the name of Jesus, 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 love to call his name, Jesus, 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 I love to call his name, Jesus, 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 I love to praise your name. I love to lift you up. Oh, and I bless your name. Oh, sweet Jesus. Hallelujah. I bless you.
Listen, okay, so I know we literally stopped at such a pivotal point, but I had to take a commercial break and then allow us to come back. But I want to say this. I want to, I try to be politically correct, but most times I'm not. So, okay, so this is the way it is. The leadership didn't take heed to what was said.
If y'all don't know what we're talking about, you just jumped in. What we're talking about is the narrative of Joshua and Caleb going in with the 12 and bringing back the report that Moses sent them in to get at the promised land.
Okay. So the leadership received the download. Let's talk in today's vernacular.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
The leadership received the download to go possess the land.
Right.
The leadership, because you said something earlier that the leadership was insecure. So the leadership, instead of just doing exactly what God said, the leadership tried to come up with another plan to literally make it look like they were trying to delegate responsibility, but instead they were being disobedient to what God had told them to do directly.
Yep.
And like you said, because the people, Joshua and Caleb, they were the only two that came back with a good report. The others came back with a negative report. So could it be that because Joshua was one of the two that came back with a positive report, that is who God showed favor to take them into their next, even after they decided that they was going to have this wall built?
Okay, but listen, this is the other part though that I need you to understand. I need you to hear me, because what is also happening though is there's a way to do anything.
Correct.
Okay. Your confession of faith, when the report is never supposed to transpire,
right,
puts everybody on Front Street who's not in alignment with the will of God.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So there are some people who are answering those who are causing delegation to take place because they're trying to appease.
Correct.
Their own. They're projecting their own fears based on every their fears is being projected on everybody else that in the circle.
Right.
So it's almost like, if I can't fight, when somebody come up and say, man, we about to go fight these cats because they did some blah 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 blah. No, bro, let's be cool. The reason bro, let's be cool is because I can't fight.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the report.
Right.
It has everything to do with the fact that I cannot fight. And because I'm afraid that I'm going to get hurt, I want to now use wisdom.
Yes.
For everybody else, we need to handle this in a different manner, because God is not going to be pleased. And he like, I never asked for none of this, first of all. All I said was go into the promised land. It's already yours.
That's what he said.
So because so now it trickles down. So when you have the leader, right, of now, if you will, right, then you have the leader of next, and the leader of next literally makes the statement to say, "Hey, I'm not scared of Jack."
Right.
If God has already done this,
listen.
If God has already made a way out of no way,
listen.
The only reason we got to this point is because of God. Right. The only reason we still have breath in our bodies and the use and activities of our limbs is because of God. The reason our clothes have not worn is because of God. Why in the world, if God told me to do something else and he's already proven himself to me all the way up to this point, am I going to be scared, too afraid to go into what he said?
Yes.
If you can crack the Red Sea,
listen.
And you killed all of them people that was rocking with Pharaoh.
Listen.
How am I going to be afraid of some giants that's in the place that I'm supposed to be now?
Right.
Clearly, you got a plan for getting rid of these people too. This is where I'm supposed to be, and they my enemy.
Right.
You done already drowned my enemy in the water.
Right.
You done already killed them off. So my enemy behind me is dead and gone. You done already eradicated them, and so now I'm gonna go into this next place where another enemy is in front of me, and they look big, and they giant, and they tall, and blah blah blah. And you like, listen, I don't care about nothing you talking about. Because the reality is what God has already done before, he will do it again.
Correct.
I don't have to switch up.
Correct. Just
because I'm scared. It's not even to say that Joshua and Caleb wasn't terrified.
Right.
I could imagine they may have been, but the reality was there was some experience they had in private enough to know, or even in public enough to know that God was going to be with them because he told them to do it. If God is instructing you to do it, do it. Like, don't hesitate. Don't have no reservation. Don't be afraid. And to be honest with you, I mean, as uncouth and kind of radical as this statement is, the hour of needing permission to do ministry is over.
Listen.
The hour of needing to have permission to, is it okay? And can I? And listen, at this point, if God is pushing you to do it, I promise you, they're going to try to build narratives around you because you're willing to go. Do it anyway.
Absolutely.
Do it scared. Do it afraid. Do it while you still wondering if God is going to come through. Do it because he already told you he's going to do it. So don't be scared. Don't be afraid because you ain't got another confirmation and because you're not sure. And you listen, GPS don't have to talk when you're on the right track.
Listen.
GPS only has to speak when it needs to give you either new instructions or to tell you you're going the wrong way.
Correct.
If God is silent, it could very well be that you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Correct.
Because God don't have to talk to you all the time. Do you know how many billions of people on the planet that God needs to respond to? So for him to have to talk to you specifically all the time when there's 7 other billion people on this planet, it's something wrong with you. And the reality is God is talking all the time.
All the time.
Right? But what I mean is he don't have to keep giving new instructions. This Bible, this word, these experiences that we have, if we're going to talk about what grandma's faith was, then we got to stop living like we didn't know her narrative. We know what she went through. We know what mama and them went through. We know what auntie and them went through. We have to come out of pride. We have to come out of fear, and we have to follow the instructions of God. And the reality is sometimes you have to disagree with the one who is leading you, and that's enough for God to know that you're willing to do what's necessary to take that particular group of people further.
Yeah.
You have to be willing in those meetings, in those Zoom calls, sometimes you got to be confrontational and be like, listen, I see where y'all trying to go. I don't feel none of this. This ain't God at all. Or listen, you got 2 different ways. You can either confront people or you can show people.
Correct.
You ain't got to argue no more. You just do what you're going to do. You just remain in the presence of God. You just continue to operate in wisdom. Listen, David never had to show up Saul when it came to putting on his armor. No. All he did was took it off and fought without it.
Right.
His wisdom was I'm going to do what I know I'm called to do.
Correct.
And by me simply doing what I'm called to do, the proof is going to be in the pudding. I don't have to say jack to nobody. Right. I don't have to say I'm David who slew a lion and a bear and Goliath, and I killed this many soldiers and I killed this many Philistines. I ain't got to say nothing. All I got to do is stand there next to everybody with the Philistine's head in my hand. If I keep standing there with the head in my hand and you look around and you're going to say, okay, well, clearly he know how to kill something. So if I need something killed, I'm calling him. It ain't because, listen, some of us is not on flyers and all this other stuff because the reason we on flyers and other people are not is because we willing to kill it.
Listen.
We willing to do what God is telling us to do. We willing to kill the strife, jealousy, envy, pride, segregation, all this other stuff, racism, inequality, injustice. We willing to kill all of this stuff in order for us to do what God is telling us to do. I promise you, when you do what God tell you to do, somebody gonna have something to say. Let them talk. Do what you're supposed to do. Handle your business and follow God. Because if they talked about Jesus following God and that was a problem, why in the world do you think they're not going to talk about you when you follow him? Jesus was God in the earth and they talked about him. So how do I even have the audacity to act like ain't nobody going to have nothing to say about me? I already know they talking. I don't care. Talk all day. And while you talking, send something to my Cash App and be a blessing. Because the reality is we got work to do. This is not the hour to play games. We're in a state of emergency. People are acting like this is just normal, and we're gonna proceed as normal, and we're gonna do everything as normal, and we're trying to get back to a state of normal. I was never normal. I wasn't never trying to be normal. I wasn't never getting back to a state of normal. I was trying to be above average always. Listen, I don't have time to sit up here and play games because there are people who need God in the earth. And if I have to not be a part of the organization for everybody to receive God, if I not have to be in the circle for everybody to receive God, if I not have to deal with that congregation or that group of people or this group of friends or whoever it is that's trying to be a hindrance to me and what God is calling me to do, I'm willing to do because I'm going to follow him because my tribe is going to be connected to my voice. My tribe is going to be connected to the people in which I'm called to serve. I do not have to wait around for nobody to tell me nothing. All I have to listen to do is follow God's instruction. And it's not because people are trying to be confrontational. It is literally because a lot of people are running around trying to do a report to be the next in line for reports that was never supposed to happen.
Listen.
The report was, there was never supposed to be no 12 spies sent into the camp.
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to get you to understand.
Correct.
There was nothing about them fulfilling this task where God should have honored Joshua and Caleb because they were never supposed to be honoring in this manner.
Right.
But because they were willing to follow leadership and meet the report and give the study and turn over the information, God is like, okay, I see how you do. You're going to honor people on reports that you know ain't even right. Correct. Still say what's contrary to the popular group because you know who I am and you trust who I am. You are who I'm going to pick for next.
So God used what wasn't supposed to happen.
Correct.
To develop the next leader.
Exactly.
Right out of the bunch that he sent out to spy the land. Okay. So with that being said, there are so many ways and so many things that God is using in this next season or this now season, preparing people for their next season. Mm-hmm. It is incumbent up on you to do what God tells you to do. And the reason I'm telling you this is because there is wealth connected to it. So if you are waiting on the opinions of others, if God has given you an instruction on Worship Wednesday in this dialogue, and if he has pricked your heart, and if he has confirmed if what we've said has confirmed to you what God has been giving you instruction on, stop waiting. Stop procrastinating and do what God has told you to do, because there is wealth that you will be able to generate from doing what God tells you to do. I promise you. Yes, we have our cash. I have my Cash App listed and posted, but I'm telling you, people of God and people just in general, if you are an unbeliever, this is the thing. Wealth is not just for believers.
Right.
And so there are unbelievers that will take what we say and run with it while the believer is still waiting on another word from God to go do what God has already instructed you to do. So if God has told you to do an online anything, stop waiting. Get you some lip gloss, do whatever it takes, look nice, shave your wigs, do whatever you got. I mean, shave your hair. Y'all know I'm gonna throw some comedy in there because
Hello.
that ain't the phone, Doc. Be encouraged. But you've got to stop wasting time. Time is precious, and you have to do what God. I'm telling y'all, I can see it. I can see wealth around a lot of the things that are taking place for people. I see the video collections. I see the books. I see the music. I'm telling y'all, you cannot wait. So you are at the house. You are by yourself. You are saying you're bored. God has given you an instruction. You have no time to be bored. You've got to be about your Father's business and worship the King through obedience. If you worship God through obedience, there is no good thing that he would withhold. So because they were not the leader, which was Moses, was disobedient and didn't do, and he sent a group, and so two came back and said positive, the other four was negative. That was a good time to be positive.
Listen.
Because him being positive, giving a positive report, made him the king, made him the ruler, made him the next HNIC.
Right.
Okay? Because he came back with a positive report. So imagine had nobody come back with a positive report. They still would have been sitting watching a wall be built. People. They still would have been sitting with a disobedient leader. Okay. And so I'm telling y'all, this is not the season of wait. This is not the season of, oh, I can do this tomorrow because I got time. No. You're not hearing me. Y'all got to hear me today. If you watch the replay, when you watch the replay, I don't care if the replay is 5 years from now. Today is July. What's today's date? July 8th.
7/8.
7/8. Okay, hear me clearly. Here we go. See, this is messing me up right here because I didn't think about that till he said it. This is 7/8.
God bless you.
2020.
Yes,
I was getting ready to say 2020.
No,
but anyway.
Here.
This
we're gonna let you use the phone.
This is 7. That is not the phone. This is 7/8/2020.
Right.
And I want this date documented so that if you watch this replay in 2024, 2027, 2032, when you watch this, you need to know that what God has given you and what God has instructed in this season, 7/8/2020, the download that God is giving you in the spirit and that he's given you even in the natural, you better move on it. Even if it's something like doing hair, if it's something like doing makeup, if it's something along those lines where now we're social distancing and you can't do them, have your plan on point. Have your vision on point. Get your business cards together. Have your stuff on point. If you don't know how to play the music, reach out to somebody that can make your beats for you, that can make your tracks for you. Send them via email, and then you get in there and you get that software and you sing to those tracks, and then you send it to somebody to have it mixed and mastered. And before you know it, you haven't left the house, but you've got a project done. Listen, do not allow the naysayers to stop you. Do not allow the negative report to stop you from doing what David did later on when David came with the Ark of the Covenant and they worshiped day and night. See, people were being compensated because that was their job. That was their responsibility. And so they were compensated for their job. And see, he had appointed thousands of people, thousands of singers, and thousands of musicians. That must have been a serious budget, because hear me clearly, that was their job. But they had people in that kingdom that sold into that. They gave into that to make sure that they were financially taken care of. And people talk about why the musicians get paid and why this, that, and the third, because that's their responsibility. That's their job. And there are a lot of musicians and singers that work and operate in church ministries today that are gifted in other areas.
Yeah.
So where you may be paying me to lead your music, or you may be paying me to play the music, there are other areas that God has gifted me in that has exceeded my check, but the benefit from it is far greater than a check. People of God, I admonish you on this Worship Wednesday. Again, they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Stop playing the game. Stop acting like, ooh, we, no, ma'am, and no, sir. You're not getting paid right now. And if you are, praise God. Turn it up. But at the end of the day, people of God, take instruction from the two stories given today, with Moses as the leader receiving the instruction, and the people having to watch something be built in their face that was never supposed to happen in the first place.
Listen.
So had they just went and possessed the land, of course there is a miracle in the wall coming down. Mm-hmm. But had they just gone and possessed the land, they would have been a lot ahead a lot sooner, mm-hmm. and would have gotten more, mm-hmm. and gathered more, because they would have taken possession with it already furnished.
Okay, but listen, hold on. Because you done messed up. Because you didn't say something else that just made me think. The miracle would not have had to have gone to the weapon of the enemy. It would have went to the adversary itself.
Correct. Directly.
Which means that there are weapons that we're fighting against that, because of our disobedience, they're having time to be built.
Yes.
Because of our lack of courage, right? Because we won't go for it when it's sitting right there in front of us. You give the opposition time, because he knows the strategy of God. You give him time to build fortresses, monuments, distractions, devastations, for us to go on these detours and be deterred and all this other stuff because of our lack of confidence in God. Mm-hmm. Listen, the children of Israel had to be in that wilderness for 40 years. That was an 11-day journey.
Correct.
Do you know how familiar they were with the wilderness by that time?
Correct.
Do you know how many circles you would have had to have gone in? That means you would have had to circle the entire wilderness almost 4 times just for you to get the point that you need to have confidence in God.
And they had kids while they was in the wilderness.
Okay, so listen. So you now you don't have to raise up an entire generation, mm-hmm. in uncertainty.
Correct.
Because you won't do what's right.
Because he had already given them, before they had kids, he had already given that generation the command and through the leader, and told the leader what to do. And so now the leader has literally placed the people in captivity, which never should have happened in the first place. All the leader had to do was follow God.
Oh, and if we double back, hold on. Yep. Sorry. Yeah. Because if you remember correctly, Moses is leading the people, and his father-in-law has to come to him,
right,
and explain to him,
right, that he gonna
you
kill
are
himself.
Doing the work,
yes, of many.
Of how many people?
Yes.
Now we go after it based on our summation of how many people he brought in, mm-hmm. which was 70. Mm-hmm. So that basically the conclusion is you doing the work of 70 men, mm-hmm. by yourself, because you will not delegate.
Correct.
And this has nothing to do with God. This has everything to do with lack of leadership understanding. Uh-huh. Which means if you can be a leader and be doing the will of God, but you could just not be doing it as effectively as you could because you don't trust nobody.
Correct.
And because you don't trust the right people, mm-hmm. to make decisions on your behalf, mm-hmm. outside of you, mm-hmm. You have to dot every I, you got to cross every T, and you got to make every single decision. And what you will be better in serving and doing is you'll be better in building an army of next, uh-huh. while you're still currently in leadership, uh-huh. so that you ain't even got to have courage.
Right.
You ain't even got to say nothing. As soon as somebody look at you sideways, your whole nation is about to jump on somebody, because they already know who you are. They know your heart. They know what you're capable of. And the reality is, when we get to that particular narrative, there were other armies who then gathered in that time that were not there.
Correct. When it started.
So now you have allowed more enemies in. Yes. Now you didn't allow a wall to be built.
Yes.
When God could have annihilated your enemies when you went there to get the report.
Yes.
The report could have been, come on.
Listen.
The audit report had to be with 2 words. Come on.
Listen. After
I mean, what? Like you already listen. You have already went into the promised land.
Oh my gosh!
And listen to how crazy this is, Moses. You never stepped into it. You never stepped into what you were supposed to because you decided to delegate when you should have been leading the charge.
Correct.
Which means you don't know how to lead.
And that's why you got mad. You were frustrated. Moses was frustrated with himself.
Oh my God.
He was frustrated with himself because he knew in his heart of hearts that he did not follow the instruction and do what God told him to do directly. So it will frustrate any person, any leader. You frustrate yourself. It's not the people. No. You got mad at the people, but you were really frustrated with yourself, Moses, because you didn't do what God told you to do directly. You never had to send spies. All you had to do was go possess it. You got mad at yourself. And many of us are living in frustrated situations, not because of somebody else, but because of us. Right. And then we see other, this is even crazier on Worship Wednesday. We see people doing what God told us to do.
Yes. Oh.
And then we get mad because we say, God, I know you gave me that. I know you told me to do that. Ask me how I know, because I'm watching it. I see things, and I've seen things in the past that God told me to do, but I felt because I didn't have the resources. All I had to do was experience that twice in my life. And I said, never again. I don't care if I don't have 2 pennies to rub together, right, or if I got one that's just breathing great air. Right. I am going to do what God has told me to do. I am going to do what God has given me to do. And what I found out when I did what God told me to do, the things that I knew I needed to help bring that thing to pass and to bring that vision to life, or as the saints say with their deep selves, to fruition. Mm-hmm. Everything that I needed was either on sale or it was given to me. Yeah. And I didn't have to spend the whole amount of money that I would have needed to spend in order to accomplish what he gave me. Once I did that, a whole new realm of opportunities opened up because of obedience. So if you don't take anything else away from today's segment of Worship Wednesday, whether you are a leader of a church, whether you're a leader on your job, whether you're a leader in your household, if God has given you something to do, if you are a leader in any ministry, any area of ministry, if God has given you an assignment, if God has given you something to do, and I know many times people will go to their actual pastors or their leaders to run things by them, to get their thoughts, to just kind of bounce it off of their leader and so forth and so on. But hear me clearly, if God himself has given you clear instruction, you're not going against the leader when you do what God has told you to do. What you really don't understand is when you do what God has told you to do, you are helping to advance the leader.
Whether they appreciate it or not.
You are helping to advance God even under that leadership. Right. And so you can't, this is not the season of worrying about what people are going to say. Let me tell y'all something. This is not even the season about how many likes you going to get. We say like and share because we want you right. to get we want the people to have this information. See, a lot of people expect that we going to come on and we going to do a lot of singing. No, that day is not over, but people need information.
Absolutely.
In this season, people need information because the song is great. Don't get me wrong, because, hey, I love to sing. I could do a concert every day and not sing the same songs. Hear me clearly. During this pandemic, I've already written at least 25 songs that will be released during this season. But at the end of the day, it's about getting the word, giving the word life, allowing the word to have a lot of breathing room. So you don't have to compact everything into a 35-minute sermon, not over here on All I Know TV, sweeties. If we have to condense it, we can condense it later. But what we doing is because we got time. Y'all got time to look. You got time to take a break and come back and all of that. And then it is there for you to watch on the replay. All we want you to do is hear the voice of God. Do what God is telling you to do. Obedience is a form of worship.
Listen.
Obedience is a major form of worship. And okay, so don't obey God. Okay? I'm just saying it like this. Don't obey him then. If God told you to do something, don't obey him. Just keep laying on the couch and watching Netflix and all of that. You're going to see your idea on Netflix.
I was just about to say, you're going to see it on Netflix.
Because somebody is going to take what God instructed you to do, because he's going to have it done in the earth, whether you do it or not. And so in your generation, and you are going to be able to actually see that either you are going to be the person on Netflix doing it, or you're going to be watching somebody else on Netflix doing what God has given you and told you and instructed you to do. So hey, listen, we're gonna have triple segments on Netflix. Y'all play entirely too much, because this is just the season that we're in. The creativity that God is downloading to his people is incredible. And if you don't take your little computer skills and you don't ask people questions and ask for help, shame on you. Shame on you. And the way this pandemic has made it feasible for people to have access to all of these different things that many people did not know about prior to all of this happening. Listen, you better get in where you fit in, hear God, do what God has told you to do, and be found being obedient on this worship Wednesday. If you don't get anything else out of it, know that David anointed and appointed, he had anointed vessels, and he appointed thousands of singers and musicians to work day and night, 365 days in the year for 33 years. Imagine, some of us have been doing ministry for a long time. We haven't done it every day, but we've been doing ministry for a long time. Now it's time to bump up your ministry. Now it's time to elevate your thinking. Now it's time to step outside the box. We're not in the four corners of the square box no more, sweeties. Some of us is rectangles. Some of us is triangles. Some of us are rectangles. Some of us are hexagons. Some of us are octagons. Some of us is plantagons. What is the plantagon? I don't know. But listen, I'm just telling you, you got to step outside. You got to step outside of the realm of it's got to be this cookie cutter way, because we don't serve a cookie cutter God.
I'm going to just say something real quick. There is nothing difficult. Nothing is difficult. It just takes time.
Correct.
And what I think a lot of people are missing is people assume that because they see you where you are, that you just knew how to do it.
Yes, no.
When we first started this whole thing, I was doing Sunday school in the hallway.
Correct.
No, matter of fact, I started in the living room. Then I went into the hallway.
Correct.
Then somebody told us about this particular platform where we could start. As soon as they said what it was, we got on it immediately. Right. And it wasn't because we knew how to do it. It wasn't because we had the special technical skills to know how to do it. It was because we had a heart for leveling up when it came to ministry.
Correct.
Because we want to represent God in the greatest way, in the smoothest way, in the sharpest way, in the most effective way possible.
Correct.
It is necessary for you to come out of your preferences, though, to get into the presence of God. I believe God was even using these platforms and these different things to see who was really doing what was necessary. Oh, that's not gonna wait. He was doing this to show us what was necessary and to teach us what was necessary to learn how to build the kingdom of God. You want to know how you build the kingdom of God? Follow instructions.
Correct.
And you don't just follow any instructions.
Correct.
You follow his instructions.
Correct.
Listen, Noah was not an individual who built arcs.
Right.
He wasn't at all.
That wasn't his profession.
Moses had no idea about writing on tablets of stone. Mm-hmm. Right? But when he got the instruction, what did he do? He wrote it down. When Noah received the instructions, he followed the download. The download, right?
Download, yes.
Right. So he received the download,
mm-hmm.
right? You have all these different guys and all these different people who followed the instructions of God, and they built things that they were not even logically or they didn't have the capacity to build it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And what if what God is asking you to build is a picture of heaven that he needs on earth during your generation, and you won't do it? And now God is being misrepresented in the earth because you're too afraid to do what he's telling you to do. Mm-hmm. When in reality, all he's asking for you to do is create a picture and a model of what he's trying to show for future generations. Absolutely, Dad. For future generations, right? So that they can see a picture of God. Mm-hmm. If they see a picture of God, they might be drawn closer to him because of your example.
Correct.
That's why I'm on a Zoom call, a live. I mean, they be sick of me. Like, listen in the house. We got. Do anybody got anything going on today?
Listen, so this is
we do it early, like
so
early in the morning. Like it's like, hey,
do
you got? Because I was playing it, and then I got, listen, we got a schedule.
We got a schedule, and actually, last night. I got a download.
Look, see,
and he said, put the schedule on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay. He said, put it on the wall. Write it on the tables. Is it the tables or the tablets? Yeah. Tables of their hearts.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay.
No.
So put it on the wall is what he said. So I said, okay, Lord. And then he said, go get your book. Mm-hmm. I'm telling y'all, this is the download. Put it on the wall. Put the schedule on the wall of every day that you are on and the time. Now, I had already written it down, but he said, put it on the wall because what you have tapped into is going to be something that everybody in your household has to see in order to line up with the vision so that everything flows correctly.
Absolutely.
And when he said it, I was like, okay, but they already know. I wrote it on a piece of paper. He said, no. He said, you have to put it on the wall.
Yep.
So when I'm done, I have to go use my creative skills and I am going to literally write it with my hand. He said, don't type it. Don't use ink from a printer. You have to handwrite it. Y'all know when you handwrite something, it has just a little more meaning and it has a little more a definition for you as the person writing it instead of just something that you're typing.
Yep.
There is a difference. There's a different level of expectation, if you will. There is a whole different level of, oh God, this is gonna be good. Just like when you get a good love letter from your boo, not no text message, not no email. When they handwrite that letter, baby, you couldn't wait to sit there and read the words of God. Has downloaded things to us that we have no choice but to do it. Because guess what? If you don't do it, you ain't gonna be able to sleep. If you don't obey God, he gonna keep on at you until you obey him. And sometimes you end up on your back. I'm not ending up on my back for me to obey nothing that God has told me to do because I can't hear him while I'm fully functional. So then he got to lay me down so I'm immobile and I hear him loud and clear because I'm really listening now because I can't do nothing else.
But listen, I just talked about this was Sunday school on Sunday. Samuel, it says, listen, in 1 Samuel 15, no. What is it? Not 1 Samuel 15. I think whatever it is, I think it's 1 Samuel 15. Is literally when, or no, it's Judges 15. That's right. It's Judges 15. Is literally when Samuel is in between the two pillars. They didn't took out his eyes, right? Now he barely has enough strength because they didn't cut off his hair.
Yes.
Right? And now he's at the point to where he's asking God, can you just give me the strength one more time?
Mm-hmm.
The issue with the text is not everybody be trying to hinge the whole thing on, oh, well, he prayed to God and he committed suicide. That's not where I'm hanging my hat at all.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm hanging my hat is what this particular narrative is it says, and he killed more soldiers.
Listen.
Basically with this one act of obedience as he was dying than he did all the time in which he was living. And what bothered me was like, are we gonna wait until we on our deathbed to do our greatest works for God? When he was the strongest man in the Bible. And the greatest act that he did was with the least amount of strength.
Right.
Now look at the oxymoron.
Right.
I could kill thousands of soldiers with my own. It said he would kill people and then pray after.
Listen.
Which means this dude was
crazy.
This dude woke up in the morning and was with it, right? So for him to have that level of strength and then turn around and be he's about to die after this one more act of obedience, he's getting ready to die. And it said he basically does his greatest work on his deathbed. In so many words.
Right.
You at your weakest point and you're able to still do your greatest work.
My God.
But because you won't take advantage of what God is telling you to do while you have the strength,
yes,
while you have the mental capacity, while you have the wherewithal, while you have the ability to learn, while you have the time.
Yes, because we have time.
This is the time now. So where you can set yourself up by the time this whole thing is clear to where you can be collecting checks for the rest of your life if you spend the time.
Correct.
Listen, there are people calling me right now to do video work. I don't do video work.
Right.
You know why they're calling me to do video work? Because I learned StreamYard.
Listen.
Because I learned how to use this. And they're like, well, wait a second. The stuff you're putting together for the different things that you're doing, can you help me with mine? Well, I don't know. Huh? Well, it's cool. We're going to pay you. You're going to pay me to learn and on something that I don't know fully how to do.
And work from the house.
Merry Christmas.
And you ain't spending no gas.
Merry Christmas.
And all you doing is spending your time.
Or, oh no, let's be clear. I have spent some gas and I have spent some time.
Well, yeah.
Right. But now I'm doing this same thing for churches now.
Yes.
Who want to have the same caliber of effectiveness when they're trying to relay the gospel of Jesus Christ because they would not delegate properly when they had the opportunity to.
You make my camera.
I know I was trying to give an earthquake effect.
Yeah.
There it is. But my point is when you delegate, right? When you know how to delegate, listen, if you're already working on the future,
listen.
Because see, I already knew long time ago what was coming. I was on Facebook and people laugh. I laugh now. Oh man, we see you and we're so proud. And listen, this stuff don't faze me at all. You want to know why? For years, the door was closed. It didn't stop me from doing what I was supposed to do. 2 views, no likes, no response, no nothing. Right? No, I mean literally no nothing. Everybody show up now. Oh man. And don't get me wrong, I'm not negating anything of anybody giving encouragement or anything of that nature. I'm trying to help you understand that there comes a transitional point to where what you've been building all up to a point.
Yes.
Eventually time is going to meet your demand.
Correct.
The demand you've been trying to build on your own, the buzz you've been trying to get, the traction you've been trying to get. That's why I tell people all the time, if you're on social media, your goal is to get views. It has nothing to do with likes and shares. Why? Because it could be one somebody who needs what you do, and all you need is 1 view. In reality, you really only need 1 view anyway.
Correct.
All you need is God to see what you're doing.
Listen.
And when he aligns time with the time that he knows that you will be ready to maintain and sustain what's necessary, then he will give you the opportunity. But you got to stop being, and I don't want to say it like this, but this is me talking. If y'all don't know me, then you know me now. If you got to stop being stuck on slow.
Yes.
You have to come out of your corner.
Yes.
You have to get out of your own way.
Yes.
Right? Like some people, they will criticize you because of your inabilities in times past. The reality is I'm not the same person I was.
Not at all.
And I don't operate on the same level. No. The reality is most of the stuff that people got to say about you, you already saying to yourself.
Right.
Because it ain't like you don't know. And if you don't know, you just blind in both of your shoes. Because the reality is you already know you be late. You already know you don't be on time nowhere. You already know that you don't come through when you say you're going to come through. Mm-hmm. You already know that you don't do what you're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. So this is the time now to sharpen your axe, if you will. This is the time now to get yourself on point. This is the time to realign yourself with the will of God. This is the time to get the tools necessary to build a future.
Yes.
Listen, I promise you, by the time August rolls around and then November rolls around,
oh my gosh,
it's going to be eyebrows lifted in the air.
Yeah.
Like, when did y'all,
Or when did you have time to do that?
How did you build this?
Y'all was on every day.
What time did y'all, what meeting did you have? How did you get this? How did you get this deal? How did you get this partnership? How did you build this connection? How did you build this relationship? How did you build these financial? I'm telling y'all think this stuff is great, but it's literally just the tip of the iceberg. Oh my God. You have no idea what's coming to you when you obey the master. I'm telling you. Like if y'all don't hear me say nothing else today, obey what he is saying in the moment. Oh my gosh. Listen, I just left the church doing a video for a church. Oh my God. Right? I just told y'all I don't do videos. Oh my God. Videos is not my expertise. Mm-hmm. They paid me to do the video. Mm-hmm. Then turned around while I'm there and they say, oh, well, what's up, Joe? That's my cousin, y'all. While I'm there, the wife of the gentleman of the pastor of the church says, well, I want you to do video for our company. Come on. Huh? Come on. Because my husband is raving about the video that you just did. God. What are you talking about? I just had another video project that I just got done right now. My God. Now I'm having to go up and look up, well, how do I make a contract? And do I do an S Corp? And do I do an LLC? And how do I possess the land? Huh? Possess the land. Now, mind you, I was doing homework on LLCs and S Corps a year and a half, 2 years ago. Possess the land. Because I knew, listen, you cannot see the future of what God is showing you prophetically and not prepare until the point comes. Right. The whole reason he shows it to you in the future is to give you time to catch up. Right. The reason you need prophetic insight is to know how to prepare from now until then. Right. The reality is I have a 20-year plan. Mm-hmm. I got a 10-year plan. I got a 5-year plan. I got a 12-month and an 18-month plan. Mm-hmm. I know how much money I'm supposed to be making. I know what kind of relationships I need to be having. I know what industries I'm supposed to be going into. I know all of these different things. So when the opportunities now come my way, I'm not shocked nor surprised. Mm-hmm. Now, I might be shocked as to how they come together, but I know it's in my wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. And listen, I'm not slow. That's Luke 2:52. That's Auntie Chantain. Mm-hmm. That's Luke 2:52. Come on. And the reality is it's not because of my own goodness. Nope. It's not because I'm the greatest nothing. I'm not. Mm-hmm. It's people who can out-preach me, outplay me. I mean, they dress better than me. Some of them look better than me. It ain't many, but it's a few. But the reality is now I have to get myself on point. Absolutely. And I have to be who he called me to be, because there are many people in my generation that are looking. And what's crazy is there are people in my generation that are looking. And that and the reality is I play Saturday. I'm talking to the pastor Saturday. Man, I be seeing you. Got done with that. What? Somebody else, what? Man, I be seeing you. Man, I be seeing you. Man, I be seeing you. And I'm like, you want to know why you see me? Because I was already here. I never went anywhere. Mm. The thing was now your eyes have been made available to what I'm capable of. I've been here the whole time. Listen. We've been here. Listen. This ain't nothing new. Listen. And we was here whether people showed up. We was here whether people came through on what they said they was going to give. We was here when people didn't do what they were supposed to do by us. And we supposed to be the person who just the MC. And now I'm playing the drums, preaching, being the MC, being the usher, handing out mints, making sure everybody got a seat. Making sure the toilet closet is open so we can put some toilet tissue on the rings in the bathroom. I mean, at other people's church. At other people's church. So we not talking. This is not a matter of am I going to get the notoriety? The reality is there is a point to where you're working long enough to where all of a sudden Jesus is born into the earth and he comes and asks, can I sit on your boat?
Listen,
now the reality is Peter had been building boats for years.
Okay, we didn't took a whole left turn.
I know,
but no, it's gonna come right back.
Peter was already there.
Wrap it around. Yeah.
Peter was already there.
Mm-hmm.
Peter was known as a fisherman.
Correct. So it wasn't like his first time on the boat.
No. So for him to ask, for Jesus to ask him, can I sit on your boat?
Listen.
It's really a conversation to say, I can see this what you prepared. I can see what you've been doing this whole time. I already know what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Listen, and everybody he picked, listen to me, everybody he picked had something going on already.
They wasn't starting up.
Listen, don't pick nobody to be on your team that already ain't working.
Listen.
Period.
Don't get nobody lazy.
Because the reality is, don't pick a spouse. Don't listen. Nobody if they not lazy. Working already, if they don't have no vision, if they don't have no plan, if they can't sit down with you and hear what you got to say, if you can't take a word of correction
and offer something to help.
Listen, if you cannot learn how to build, listen, the one of the ways that you know you with God, and I'm gonna shut up because I gotta go to this thing. But one of the ways that you know that you are dealing with God and you know that you're on the right track with God is God starts teaching you how to make nothing into something.
Right.
The more effective you become with making nothing into something. I think quarantine is really teaching us. Yeah. I told you at the beginning, I'm fascinated by prison culture. These dudes be making alcohol, everything. They be making, just
weapons.
Shank. How you doing shanks out of the plastic spoon? like
you killing people and stabbing people.
How you making cake out of bread and sugar and water, some cracker crumbs and what? Like how? What? Where is your mind at all day to be thinking of this stuff?
Ooh, sorry.
Right? It's a show right now called For Life. It's one of my favorite shows. The reason it's one of my favorite shows is the man goes into prison, he's falsely accused and becomes a lawyer while he's in prison. And then has the ability to now fight on behalf of other prisoners to get out while he remains in prison trying to fight his own case. In my mind, it's the perfect picture of ministry
because he's in for life.
But the thing that he got put in for, he actually did not do. But even though he didn't do it, and it's just like Joseph's narrative. See, and I could do this all day. Y'all don't listen all day, right? But the reality was when you know how to serve other people while you in prison, you have nowhere to go but up.
Right.
Because somebody is going to remember what you did at the same time that everybody else is hanging their head low, everybody else is frustrated, everybody else is irritated, everybody else feel isolated. You got your head down working.
Mm-hmm.
You grinding, you putting in the work, you doing what's necessary, you taking care of the things you can, and you not tripping. You get up every single day and you put your pants on and your shirt on and whatever else you got to put on, and you go on about your day and you do what God is calling you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the scariest part about it is some of the same people who didn't want to fool with you before is the main ones who will have a compliment about how much they appreciate your success when you become successful. Matter of fact, they will act like they don't see your request for you asking for their help beforehand. And then all of a sudden remember, oh yeah, you remember you was, God bless you, goodbye. Because the reality is we don't have time now. I can't meet with you now. I don't have the time no more. I don't have the ability no more. I don't have the capacity. Listen, it's some people I don't even have the capacity to be angry with no more.
Right.
I don't even have time to be mad at you.
Nope.
Oh, you good? Wonderful. God bless you. See you later.
And we thank you.
I gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because people are so stuck on trying to build off the backs of other people in the kingdom of God. Mm-hmm. That day is over. Because eventually, what you could have gotten for free, you're going to have to pay for because you didn't build the relationship that you needed to with the people in which you needed to
pay for.
God bless you. Okay, so I'm gonna shut up because I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go. Yep. Y'all excuse me. I get excited.
Listen. Okay. This is the thing. Cut it out.
Ooh,
Lord. We are gonna come back next Wednesday with part 2 of this because there is still more to unpack from this whole narrative. If you joined us late, please go back and look at the replay.
Please.
I promise you, by next week, we will have brought this whole circle back together. And so I will have a guest here with me on next week. My son will be with me, but I believe, unless he's building a corporation or something.
No. Okay, so we could do the schedule, because actually next Wednesday I'm doing a talk with a group on men and raising the standard of relationships in the kingdom of God.
Well, praise God.
That's at 2:00 though.
Oh, well,
so we can figure out the time.
Well, I'll bring you in. Okay, great.
Yes, Lord, God bless you.
And so we will also have Elder DeGeorge Hines.
Yes.
On as well, as we delve into this a bit further. So join in with us on next Wednesday at 3 p.m. as we honor God through Worship Wednesday. Everything that we do is to give God glory and honor. And here at All I Know TV, that's what we are all about. We are about building ourselves up, building up others, collaborating with others, because the ministry of collaboration is real.
Listen.
And it will save you a lot of time,
man,
energy, and effort when you collaborate with those that are smarter than you. That was a silent mute. We're not on mute, but we just declared a moment of silence, and we're going to go to the phone. We're going to go right back to that moment of silence. Get people around you, even in worship, that are smarter than you. And it will help you to develop into the person that God has called you to be. There are some people that study more than you. There are some people that delve into things more than you. Not that you don't know, and not that you're unlearned, but I learned that from an older gentleman that has since passed away. He was one of my mentors, and he said, Frida, if you want to be successful, get people around you that are smarter than you. He said, I know how to do a lot of things, but you know how to do things faster than I do, because I'm from the typewriter generation. He said, you can have stuff done in 2 hours that it would take me 24 hours to do, because the way your mind processes things differently from mine, because I'm used to doing things in an old way. And what then I turned around and did was to help him to create what was old and build on the old, to let him know that the keys on the computer are in the same order, basically, as the keys on the typewriter. They just took the keys from the typewriter and condensed it down to a flatter surface to make something that you could still use using the same keys in the same position, but they just decreased it so that it would be sellable faster and it wouldn't be as heavy for you to carry. So they lighten the load as we go through our technological steps. They've lightened the load to still accomplish what you could still accomplish on a typewriter. So all I'm saying is, people of God, on our worship times, in our worship segments, we are again giving you tools that will add value to your life, that will add value to your ministry, that will add value even to your worship that you offer to God. So thank you for tuning in for Worship Wednesday. We're going to leave you with our theme song. And again, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It may not be about all the likes and shares, as Son said a little earlier, but we do like to know that we've made an impact on your life in some kind of way. So please like and share. And again, subscribe to our YouTube channel here at All I Know TV. Have a blessed one, and we'll see you next week.
I worship you in the good times, and I worship you